Thank you for turning to page 121.
Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about Dragon Magazine. If you saw my previous video on the life of the Dragon Magazine, this episode I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on why Dragon was such a good buy every month. This issue is the first that features the topic I'm going to discuss today, and I'm going to go a little bit into that, why it was so important, and how it's still kind of being carried on today. So, okay, this is the article that I want to discuss today from the Sorcerer's Scroll. This belonged to Gary Gygax. This was Gary Gygax's way of staying in touch with the reader in Dragon Magazine and keeping us up to date on what he was working on, when we would see T2 of the Temple of Elemental Evil. Still wait, or we actually got that. Still waiting for Castle Greyhawk. That's never going to happen, unfortunately. But this particular issue, he talks about protection circles and such for use in AD&D. But then he goes into the thing that I'm really interested in, news of the central and north of the north central Flanus. So basically what this is it gave us a look into the Gygax, see the air quotes, the Gygax campaign as it was being run in Greyhawk. Greyhawk was the only published world we had at the time. Some people, I started with a homebrew world. Some people were still doing homebrews. I had moved over to Greyhawk just after this issue was published. This was December of 81. I moved to Greyhawk in January of 82, and not in small part because of these articles. This gave us a great thumbnail on what was going on in the various lands around the Flanus. So this particular issue starts out dealing with Ayus and the wolf nomads, what they're doing since Ayus has been missing in the God Trap and underneath Castle Greyhawk and all that good stuff. And it tells us the size of their armies, the composition of their armies, who's who. It doesn't go into any details as far as this lord has these stats and this many hit points. That was left for the reader to go ahead and flesh out. But just knowing how many footmen and heavy crossbowmen and how many orcs were in an army just helped a lot as you were fleshing out your campaign. I never used information directly about the armies from this, but absolutely it influenced my game and it influenced how I thought about things where I was setting them. Most of my campaign has been set around Greyhawk and Furiandi, which of course the Shieldlands are right there, depending on which area you're playing in, the Horn Society, and of course Ayus to the north. So because of that, I had a lot of interest in what was going on here. And I really think that that's why I tended to gravitate toward the center of the excellent Darlene maps. The center being Greyhawk City itself, and then a little bit to the left, you see Furiandi sitting right there. It was the most fleshed out, and then it became the part I wanted to flesh out the most. So this would go for a few pages and just tell us all kinds of goodies. Here, the Bandit Kingdoms. So we have the Bandit Kingdoms there. There we have a breakdown of the armies of the Bandit Kingdoms of the various cities. So you could sit there, okay, Rook Roost. I'm going to do a game in Rook Roost, which I had. So in Rook Roost, where I just lost it, Plar Teud Fent, an illusionist of 9th level, with 250 cavalry and 450 infantry. It just gave you an idea of what was going on where and who the powers were and who the powers weren't. Gary Gygax did about 5 or 6 of these articles in the early 80s. I found them very useful. I still pull these dragons out frequently, and we'll read through it, especially if I'm moving my game around a little bit, going a little, the Rovers, the Barons, that kind of stuff. Also, just interesting, great Traveler ad there. And the other, I'm going to show another issue. This is issue 57. Which has From the Sorcerer's Scroll in it as well. Here it is. Developments from Stonefist to South Province. This one just gave us info on the Flanus. No magic items, or rather magic spells, protections. but it gave us a lot of good information. I did not know anything about the Bone March prior to reading this article. I realized the Bone March is to the east, but it's still very useful information. Sundi is called out here. I ran a campaign in Sundi for about 6 years. Use this information as my starting point. Of course, now with the internet, you just type in Sundi, and there you have all kinds of stuff you can look at, and maybe even stuff from other people's campaigns. But again, this is the early 80s. Internet, what was that? Didn't even have a computer yet. So the other thing I want to mention about these is there is a gentleman online. He goes by the name Greyhawk Grognard. I've followed his blog for years. Back in, I think, 2018, I'll attach a link. He did an excellent follow-up to these from the Sorcerer's Scrolls. He didn't call it that, of course, but he did a follow-up on the happenings in Greyhawk, and he did it in the same style as Dragon Magazine. He did a lot of articles, the Gods of Greyhawk and such, and even other parts of the supercontinent of Greyhawk that aren't called out in other products. He built up and fleshed out. It's a very good website, very enjoyable. He also has a YouTube page, which has a ton of great Greyhawk content. So I'm going to attach a link to both his blog and his Greyhawk content YouTube. Please check him out. And no, I don't know him. Never met the man. He doesn't know I exist. If there's good Greyhawk content out there, I really don't care where it came from. If I can direct people to it, great. I use it myself. I think he's very skilled at what he does. And I hope he keeps producing material forever and ever. So that's all I've got to say today on the from the Sorcerer's Scroll articles in Dragon Magazine. Thanks for watching. Thanks for giving me a chunk of your time. Please leave any comments you have below. And if you liked it, like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on page 121.
Well, that closes the book on another episode of page 121. Please leave your comments below, and if you enjoyed what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.